Okay, we're ready to go. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Kirsten. I'm going to moderate the debate tonight on behalf of the Growth Alliance. And it's nice to have a crowd here, and then those that are listening. We'll give you directions here in a minute how you can call or text a question in from your home. So tonight, the basic rules and layout of it is, first of all, we'd like to have everybody wear a mask. Please be mindful of social distancing. This forum is also being streamlined to Facebook and YouTube. If you are watching remotely, please text your questions to 515-207-2486, and that number again is 515-207-2486, and that'll go right to one of the phones of our sifters, and they then will write the card down and bring it up to me. For those of you in the audience, please submit your questions via note cards and hand them to the sifters, and they have pens and paper for you if you need them. You can just hold up your hand and when you need a card, but also when you want one to be picked up. We will try to cover as many topics as time allows. This means that we may or may not get to every question submitted. As always, we ask that everyone, both in attendance and watching from home, remain respectful during the forum. The opening will be 2-minute opening comments from each of the candidates. Then we'll have the question, and they'll have each 2 minutes to answer the question. And then they'll have two-minute closing comments for each. The sheriff's debate's going to be here from 5:30 to 6:15. We'll take a break and then have the Iowa House debate at 6:30 to 7:15. And we may, roll over just a little bit if we have some time, but we aren't going to just cold cut somebody off. So we've decided to discuss before the debate that we'll have Luke make opening comments and then follow with Tony, and then I'll start asking the first questions. Thank you. Tony? No, Luke, excuse me.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everybody here and those watching online and the cast that's going on tonight. I was born and raised in Webster County. My first law enforcement job was in the town that I was raised in, Dayton, Iowa. I was a part-time officer there. Took out a loan and got certified through the Law Enforcement Academy, knowing that I would be better fit for this world if I was certified. And sure enough, in 1990, I began my law enforcement career full-time in the Fort Dodge Police Department. I worked at Fort Dodge for 3 years. And in 93, I took a job in the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office because I was kind of drawn to the Sheriff's Office work styles and the things that involved working in the Sheriff's Office. And in 95, I was hired by the Webster County Sheriff's Office and have been here ever since. During my time at the Sheriff's Office, I've worked all of our patrol shifts, mornings, nights, and overnights. I've also spent 12 plus years being an investigator, investigating all crimes imaginable, from homicides, officer-involved shootings, robberies, burglaries, sex crimes, and most recently, the last 7 years, working narcotics cases. Those narcotics cases are prosecuted here locally and also on the federal level, so I do federal cases. During my time at the Sheriff's Office, I spent the last 18 years with our tactical team. We have a regional CERT team is what it's called. 10 years ago, I took over as a training coordinator and was promoted to team leader of that unit, and then 6 years ago, I became the team commander of that team. In addition to that, I spent the last 12 years traveling the United States training police officers in active shooter response for a company based out of Texas called Alert, which is now recognized as the national standard by the FBI as what active shooter response training should look like. I've trained thousands of officers in that, and I enjoy doing training. And the last thing I'll bring up is I spent the last 5 years working with our public school systems, both Fort Dodge Public Schools and the Catholic schools, helping with school safety programs, intruder drills, lockdown, lockout, those type of things to ensure that our schools are safe and our staff know what to do, God forbid, if somebody would come into our schools and pose harm to our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tony?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Walter, and tonight I want to earn your vote to be the next
Webster County Sheriff. I believe in proactive law enforcement, not only in enforcing the laws,
but in community outreach, departmental training, and preparedness for all the situations that law enforcement face today. In 2001, I earned my criminal justice degree from Iowa Central Community College. I have 18 years of law enforcement experience, and 16 of those years have been right here with the Webster County Sheriff's Office. I have served as a department canine handler for 13 years, in which I have received many regional and national awards. In 2009, I was named the National Champion Canine Handler for narcotic searches with my partner, Cade. In 2016, I was promoted to the rank of Sergeant by Sheriff Jim Stubbs. During my 18 years of law enforcement, I have been through and participated in many different types of trainings. These include FBI Leadership School, Search and Seizure, Drug Interdiction Investigation, Crime Scene Investigation, and many, many more. I served as a member of the Joint CERT team here in Webster County before I became the department's canine handler in 2007. I also served as a member of the Region 5 Narcotics Task Force during my time with the Humboldt Police Department. As your sheriff, I will strive for improved and updated training for the deputies, the jailers, and our office staff with an emphasis on mental health training. I will strive for more positive community outreach from the sheriff's office and our members, and I will use data-driven research to study crimes throughout Webster County so that we can distribute personnel to properly serve and protect the citizens of our communities. I would like to talk a little bit about my off time. When I'm off work, I spend time with my family. Oh, I ran out of time, I apologize.
Well, I'm sure you can get some more comments to finish up later. The first question from the audience says, the Webster County Jail is currently experiencing a COVID-19 outbreak. Do you have what you need to respond to the outbreak, and did you feel the department and its partners were prepared? Would like to want to take that one first?
Yes, I can go first on that. As we see, we're all wearing masks today. I strive to wear my mask as much as I possibly can, not for fear that I personally will become sick. I am not a high-risk person. But I believe in wearing my mask here and in public because that is compassion and respect for everyone else in this room. I would hate to pass that on to someone that may be of high risk. As far as the current outbreak in the jail and how we've handled that, protocols were put into place almost immediately. From the jailers having a series of questions to ask anybody that we brought to the jail, to temperatures. And if the subject did not pass these questions, then we would take them to the hospital to get tested. I know there was isolation if anybody was at risk or potentially exposed to COVID-19. I think it has been handled the best we can, given the circumstances. And we do have the sanitation, the masks, everything that we have in place to try to prevent this from spreading.
Thank you. Luke?
Thank you. As we all know, this has been a strange year with COVID, and our department started thinking and planning for the day of what if, clear back in March when this happened. When you think about our jail system, we are essentially holding some of the people in the county that have committed crimes, obviously, and we started early on with keeping them isolated when they came into there. We worked closely with the Department of Public Health and the County Health Department on implementing procedures, as Tony said, with interviewing those inmates as they come in. But at the end of the day, it was almost inevitable that would happen. And when it did happen, I think it was handled appropriately. We do have PPE in place on the jail floor, as well as with our deputies to try to isolate those people that have been in contact with those type of individuals that have tested positive. So we are all learning from this COVID crisis as we go through the years, and I think we are no different than anybody else that inevitably we were afraid it would come, and when it did, it was handled the best that we could do with the resources that we have available to us.
Thank you very much. The next question, we'll start with Luke and then go over to Tony. What do you see as the department's top priority?
Well, I think there's a lot of things on the table as we move forward into the new year. I think first and foremost, the biggest obstacle that we have to cross is creating a hiring field where people want to come and work at our sheriff's department. This is not a field, a profession that a lot of young people want to be in now, for lack of better terms, what we see in the media all the time. So I think that's the first obstacle that we have to have. After we get that bridge crossed, I think there's things that we can do internally to improve the morale with our department, whether that be shift changes. A lot of my short-term goals include doing yearly performance reviews where we sit down with your supervisor and they tell you these are the things that you've done good, these are the things that you need to improve on. I think all of those things will be the first things on the table to help our department start to move and get better as we go forward. I'd like to see our department that star on the map of Iowa where people really want to come and work for us based off the great people that we already have and the ones that we're going to gain in the future.
Thank you. Tony?
I feel that one of the greatest needs for the sheriff's office is more improved and updated training for the deputies, the jailers, and our staff. I want to establish a field training program for new deputies so that when they come and work here and they are released on their own, they are confident and they are knowledgeable in the duties that they need to perform. I've also reached out to different locations such as Iowa Central Community College in reference to their sim center. We have that sim center at the college that is a great asset. I have reached out to Pfeifferlich Taekwondo. He is willing to come in and train our deputies, our jailers, our office staff on defensive tactics so that we can properly de-escalate situations, and if we have to use force, we are properly trained in the techniques to use. I want to continue reaching out to speak with places like Berry Hill and Unity Point, stuff like that, so that we can update and train the deputies on mental health issues that we are dealing with on a daily occurrence in Webster County. It is something that we will always have to deal with, and the deputies, the jailers, our staff must have the proper training for that. All of these resources, Pfeifferlich, Iowa Central, they're right here at our fingertips. We can easily use these resources to get the deputies, the jailers, and the staff proper, adequate, updated, improved training, and we have to start utilizing those resources.
Thank you very much. The next question is, and we start with, I believe, Tony. What positions have you held within the Sheriff's Department as well as outside that will assist you in being a successful sheriff?
Well, I have been a deputy, obviously. I've been a city police officer, so I know both aspects of local city law enforcement. I know the aspects of county law enforcement. I have been a canine handler for 13 years. That is my area of expertise. Just like Sergeant Fleener, his area is alert training, mine is canines. I could travel this country and teach people how to train, and I could train canines and those handlers. That is my expertise. I'm also at the rank of sergeant, where I am in charge of deputies that are on my shift, and I have to make sure that they have the needs, the knowledge, and everything they have to properly do their job.
Thank you very much. Luke?
I've been a sergeant since 2009 with the Sheriff's Office, and with that comes a lot of responsibilities in leading some of our other employees and our deputies, whether it's in investigations or with patrol duties. I've also spent a short period of time as the acting chief deputy for our Sheriff's Department when our current chief deputy was on medical leave. So I've been exposed to some of the things that go along with the administrative side of running a Sheriff's Office. I think those are invaluable experiences when it comes to leading this department into the future. More recently, working on a narcotics task force with members of 7 officers from different departments. It's great to be able to lead those guys in investigations and show that we can work together no matter what agency we come from, being able to work with other agencies cohesively to achieve the ultimate goal, and that is to stop crime in our communities. And being proactive is all we do in narcotics. Outside of law enforcement, I've been on the Dayton Rodeo Committee for 9 years. 6 of those, I was the president of that. Obviously, with a big production as the Dayton Rodeo is, there's a lot of budgeting things that we have to take care of. We have to balance a budget. We have to take care of the money coming in and making sure that we're able to put that event on year after year. I think it's important to understand the pros and cons of those financial obligations when you're placed in a position, an administrative position as the next sheriff of this county, knowing how to balance those budgets. So I think all of that experience is going to lend a great asset in the future as the next Webster County Sheriff.
Thank you very much. This is kind of following up the same path. There have been calls throughout the country about defunding the police. What would you say to those wanting to defund police, and what role do you see the Sheriff's Department playing in criminal justice reform?
Well, obviously, a lot of that is driven by the media that we see on TV. Clearly, defunding the police isn't the answer to some of the problems that we have. I think the base of that thought is that we are the first interaction people have, that if they have distrust with the justice system, it shows itself with law enforcement, because we're the first people that deal with individuals entering that justice system. If there is to be change in criminal reform, I think it starts with conversations that I've had with people in our community, including Chief Porter, Mr. Clayton, other individuals that say we need a change. That starts with conversations and doing it in the right way. If there's distrust or criminal reform that needs to take place, it needs to be done in a peaceful way where we can sit down and discuss what the changes need to be, how do we approach the subject that needs to be changed, and what's the best way to achieve our goal. And if that is criminal reform, I certainly don't think we need to defund the police. We are there to protect and serve. We take that oath when we are sworn in. And in January, as a new sheriff, that will be our oath, to protect and serve the citizens of this county. And we are to do that first and foremost each and every day. When people are in need at their lowest points in their lives, whatever that may be, car accidents, domestics, whatever the crime victims, they call, and our job is to respond and be there. So my position as the next sheriff is, yes, I would help with reform if there's things that need to be changed, but that starts with communication with people like myself, Chief Porter, members of the community, Mr. Clayton, and other areas of expertise that we can come together and have a conversation of, if there's change, what does it need to be and how do we achieve that goal?
Thank you very much. Tony?
Well, honestly, I don't think I have to expound on this a whole lot. I am one of the police. I am against defunding the police. It would create a dangerous situation for our citizens, plain and simple. We need to keep and maintain our funding because we need that funding to properly serve the citizens of our community.
Thank you very much. Kind of following up this question, here's another one related to staffing. One of you is going to become sheriff, and what are your plans to fill that vacant position when you're elected? So I believe, Tony, you start.
Well, currently, I have actually already reached out to the Civil Service Commission. We have a list of applicants already in place. Before we can even move forward with applications, we must take a look at that list. If we determine that there is nobody left on that list, then that is the right candidate for the position, then we are able to expunge that list and move on. Now, speaking with this member of the Civil Service Commission, they project that it will take at least 45 to 60 days before they can even get the testing and everything started. So we are looking at after the 1st of January. With that being the case, we are going to be shorthanded for a time. The sheriff and the chief deputy, if they both retire, we will be down 2 deputies. We will have to fill that in. If that is moving a detective to help fill the road, or the sheriff coming out and filling a shift, or the chief deputy coming out and filling a shift, that's what we'll do. We will maintain our staff so that we have enough resources out there to keep the citizens safe.
Thank you. Luke?
Yeah, I kind of go along with some of his thoughts, and that is a huge obstacle that we have to face in January if we have to immediately fill 2 spots. Along that line of thinking, though, I think there's a way to make our department extremely attractive to certified officers, turnkey, certified guys that have experience that come in and are shown how things work here, and then they can move on. That may be pay incentives, that may be a step up in pay. Whatever those are things that need to be done to increase people applying at our sheriff's. As I said before, I think there's a real chance that we could be the premier sheriff's office in Iowa to recruit people here. this isn't a great profession to get into right now, and I think anything that we can do to enhance that opportunity is what we need to do as the next sheriff. And I would go along also with what he said. I've been a working officer for 30 years. I work cases. I catch bad guys. I've always done that. And I did a radio interview not that long ago where they, do you think it'll change when you move to administration? I don't think you can just shut that off. As a proactive law enforcement officer, I can't just be the sheriff and not help where help is needed. So to echo what he said, there's no reason that the sheriff and chief deputy can't be helping with where there's shortages. When our deputies say, hey, we need some help with something, that's where the experience that I have says, perfect, I'll be right there and we'll help you through whatever that situation may be, whether it's filling shifts, working cases, or crimes, to achieve those goals, which is protecting and serve all of you.
Thank you very much. This next one is related to general law enforcement topic that says, law enforcement has become the community responder of last resort when it comes to truancy, mental health, substance abuse, conflict resolution. Do you see ways the community can more effectively work together to prevent and respond to those situations? Luke, I think, you want me to read that again?
No, I got the gist of
Okay.
it, yeah.
It says law enforcement has become the community responder of last resort when it comes to truancy, mental health, substance abuse, conflict resolution, etc. Do you see ways the community can more effectively work together to prevent and respond to those situations?
Well, I think a lot of those issues start with education. I went to the mental health forum last week, and one of the big issues there was getting the people diagnosed with mental health to the right people that have services for them. In our jail system, we have a STEP program where we bring in people from Berry Hill, from county health, public health, that help our jail administrator achieve the goals of helping those people that are incarcerated that have been diagnosed with mental health issues. Truancy, obviously, we're the people that get responded to that. How do we fix truancy? Law enforcement educating people that you need to go to school. I think most of those issues deal with community involvement and communication and getting together and coming up with the best course of action to address each and every one of them as they propose themselves. So I think it all starts with us all working together to achieve those things. That is our goal, whatever that issue may be.
Thank you. Tony.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to, I've already talked about it. We need to reach out to places like Berry Hill and Unity Point and CFR. We need to build a good working relationship and maintain that working relationship so that we can work together. We need to reach out to the schools to become more involved in the schools. We have to reach out to these people. We have to find ways to do that. These people, especially with mental health, they deserve the help. We need to stop using of throwing people in jail because we don't know what else to do with them. And that's why we have to reach out and we have to work together.
Thank you very much. I don't know what that sound is, but if you want to have a few more, after it goes down, we'll give you the last 30 seconds to correct. You're okay? Okay. What have you done to improve the image of law enforcement and your department, both in the past and recently? What have you done to improve the image of the law enforcement and now and in the past?
I think to help improve the image of law enforcement, some of the things that I have done is volunteering for many different things throughout the community. The K-9, being the K-9 handler, has given me a great opportunity for that. I have volunteered time to do presentations for Almost Home, the schools. I volunteered to go all the way to Humboldt on my own time to do a K-9 presentation for the Humboldt DARE classes. That is how we get involved. My family has volunteered as bell ringers in front of Hobby Lobby for the Salvation Army. I volunteered for youth softball coach. I was able to do that last year, and it was an amazing experience.
Whoops. There goes our sound. No?
Was I that bad?
No. Go ahead, Tony.
All right. I lost my train of thought now, Jim. All right. So anyways, like the youth softball coach, I was able to reach out. These are amazing experiences. We have to become involved and reach out to the community in positive ways. That is how we are going to improve our image. If citizens only deal with law enforcement during their bad or their worst times, they start associating law enforcement as a negative thing. And that is something we have to change.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think it all starts with us treating people with respect. And I've spent the last 30 years doing that each and every time I have interaction with people in the public. To echo some of the things Tony said, I volunteered teaching at the Citizens Academy. I taught DARE for a number of years doing that. All of those things expose people to the things that are part of our world and educating them on things that we do. The Citizens Academy is great. The time that I spend in the teacher world, educating them and giving them help with emergency response plans, lockdown, lockout, doing questions and answers for parents that have questions about what is our school doing to make sure it's safe. Those things are all great things to build the image of law enforcement, not just me with my background, but us as a department. The members of our department that are currently on staff, they do a great job day in and day out. And yeah, we deal with people sometimes in the worst part, but I can assure you that even the police department and our people always treat people with respect, and that's where it starts at, treating people like human beings. I was told early on in my career when I was a Fort Dodge police officer, you can take somebody's freedom away from them because we have the power to arrest people. But if you take somebody's dignity away from them, then that's when you have trouble, because that's when they want to fight back. That's when they want to say, I'm not going to do this. So treating people with respect is kind of where that goes with the image of law enforcement in general. And I'm a firm believer in that, and I always have done that. I have people that I've arrested in hundreds of cases that I can still talk to this day, and they don't hold a resentment against me because they knew they were in the wrong, and I explained that to them. And that's the image that we want to perceive.
Thank you very much. This is two questions, but I'll combine it into one. It says, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges to the Webster County Sheriff's Department going forward, and what do you see as the department's top priority? What are the challenges facing the department, and what is its top priority from your perspective?
My first? I can't
Yeah.
remember. Okay. Top priorities, obviously, filling vacancies that are going to be coming up. Training is a huge issue. In our world today, a lot of things happen really, really quick. I've been fortunate enough to have several meetings so far with Chief Porter and Mr. Clayton on providing a class of use of force decision-making to show citizens what law enforcement is dealing with each and every day. Those are the type of things that can show we are taking strides in training our deputies to be the very best they can. In my world of active shooter training, it revolves around stress inoculation training, where we put individuals in hallways dressed as bad guys shooting projectiles at officers making entry into a room. And we see all kinds of crazy stuff, and that is because from the biggest departments, from Houston, Boston, Phoenix, wherever, they don't get enough training on stress inoculation, being there and being able to make quick decisions under stress. And that is a huge thing that we're going to do. That goes back to our jail staff, as we heard earlier, with training them in mental health. That's a big issue right now, that we have a lot of people in our jail that have those problems, and training is a big deal with that. So between training and the things that we've talked about so far, I think those are the ways that we move our department forward.
Thank you. Tony?
Thank you. I already spoke about my thought of our biggest need is being training. So I'm going to focus on a different area here. And the biggest challenges that we face in the sheriff's office, the biggest things we see, one, mental health crisis in the state, and two, drug abuse. These things can go hand in hand a lot of times. And it is important that we reach out again. I keep going back to that reach out, but we need to reach out. We need to work together with Berry Hill, Unity Point, and these different places so that we can get these people treatment, get them help, and we must be proactive in enforcing the laws, especially against drug abuse.
Okay, thank you very much. We've already talked about the need for training in mental health and defense training, but someone asked, do we have the funding or is the will there to fund a new or expanded jail? And what are your thoughts on the general topic of do we need a new jail or a bigger jail?
Well, as far as a jail goes, if a new jail is proposed, absolutely. We all love new, bright, shiny things. We would love to have a new jail. Unfortunately, the sheriff does not get to make that decision. The sheriff at most can serve as a consultant to the Board of Supervisors, who would have to approve that, and there would have to be a bond referendum that the voters would have to vote in favor of. So if they give us a new jail, great, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Luke?
So the building that we're in currently is 30-plus years old and was never designed to hold 60-plus inmates, which is currently what our level of inmate is right now. We have 10-plus inmates in our current facility that are facing murder-type charges in a facility that's not set up for that. The downside to that is it's dangerous for the people that work there. Our jail staff is interacting with these people that have allegedly committed a murder already, or attempted murder as the case was. Yes, it has to be a bond issue, but somebody's got to lead the fight that this is not being safe and it's time to move forward. The key to that is working closely with our law enforcement partners such as Chief Porter, even Lieutenant Miller with the State Patrol, to show that law enforcement has unified that this is something that we all need because of the staffing issues that we have. Farming prisoners out to other counties and we pay for them to house our prisoners cost us thousands and thousands of dollars every year. Sooner or later, we have to change what we're doing to stop the bleeding of that investment of paying other people to take care of our inmates. It's a safer environment. So yes, it has to start with a bond issue, but it has to be a joint effort. Building a law center with a new jail that we would be able to house inmates from other ones. I've been in conversations with the sheriff's departments that surround us on possibly making a regional jail. Counties just like Humboldt that are extremely small and their facilities aren't very good are thinking and trying to find ways to work that out, that we could have a regional law center here where multiple counties could work together on that one issue that we're all facing on top of the COVID issue is overcrowding and how do we handle people that are incarcerated the best way and the most economically sound way. So that's a long-term shot. Initially, we just have to get through with what we're dealing now and hopefully do it safely with the COVID and the level of crimes of the people that are incarcerated right now.
Thank you very much. Okay, this question starts with Luke. I'm tired of the negativity in campaigns at the state and national level. Tell me one quality you appreciate about your opponent.
Well, ditto on the negative ads. I can't turn the TV on enough anymore, right? It's just all that you see. So I'm glad this isn't the presidential debate that we saw last week where I interrupt him and he interrupts me. We're not doing that, so that's a plus. When Sergeant Walter came to me in March and said, I'm thinking about taking papers out and running, and I told him, I said, best of luck. Because at the end of the day, you, the citizens, decide who is the best candidate to fill this vacancy. Tony works hard as a K-9 officer. That's true. He's a good sergeant on the patrol. Yes, he does what his job is supposed to be about. He does all those things. But it's not for me to decide who the next sheriff is, and it's not for him. And I told him that. I said, at the end of the day, you as the citizens of Webster County will determine who is the most qualified, who has the most experience, and who has the best leadership ability to lead our department forward. And we will live with that. And on November 4th, when this is over with, we will move forward in making this department better with me as the next sheriff starting in January.
Thank you. Tony?
That wasn't negative.
Very good, Sergeant Fleener. I agree. When I decided, I had not decided until the last minute if I wanted to run for sheriff or not. As soon as I did, the first person I went to was Sergeant Fleener because I knew that he was going to run. And I wanted to give him that respect of telling him face to face from me instead of hearing it from someone else. Sergeant Fleener and I have worked together for, well, I've been here 16 years, so we've worked together for 16 years. We have always had mutual respect for each other. We have always worked well together. We might not always agree, but great minds don't always agree, right? But that's the beautiful part about this. We can work together. We can be on opposite sides of things, but we can still come together and work together.
Thank you very much. We need more of that in the country today. Candidates talk a big game about what they'll do once they're elected. I want to know what you've already done as a community outreach. And then can you decry, well, go ahead and answer that question first, and I've got another one to follow up. So what have you done for community, outreach, and what do you expect doing going forward?
What I have already done and I have always done, I talked about this before, all the volunteering times with the canine presentations, the softball coaching, the bell ringing and that. But community outreach has to be a high priority for the sheriff's office. There's no other way to do it. We must start focusing on getting the sheriff's office involved in positive ways throughout the community. And I already started. It was on my platform from the day I threw my name in the hat, and it's something that I've been working for since that day. I have reached out to schools throughout the county. I have reached out to community leaders and other people that can help me get involved and ways to do that. I announced on September 8th that I've been working on a mentorship program to join the deputies and with the students from the schools throughout our county so that they can interact in positive ways. This is something as simple as a phone call from a deputy to say, how was your day going? How was your week? Are you getting your schoolwork done? Do you need any help with anything? And if we can work into it, and I'm sure we can, it will be my goal, to allow that deputy maybe 3 days out of the year to take their shift and spend that with that student and do something fun. Take the student fishing, do something like that, to build that trust and everything with the community. 2 weeks after I announced that I've been working on this mentorship program, the Fort Dodge PD announced they've been working on almost the exact same thing. I had no idea they were doing it, but I loved it because my hope was that this would expand past the sheriff's office and involve Gowrie, Dayton, Fort Dodge, and we can't forget the students that live in our county that go to Webster City or Humboldt. Let's make it big.
Okay, Luke.
Thank you. During my career, I started my community outreach by being a DARE officer, going in and teaching kids on my days off almost weekly throughout the school year. As I've evolved, I've done other things, including Citizens Academy, doing presentations a couple times a year for that. The safety training that I've done for the public schools and the Catholic schools, meeting with staff there for the last 5 years, is a huge asset for them. Going in and doing safety assessments to their building. Each and every one of them, by law last year, had to have a safety assessment done to ensure that their building was safe. I was the one that went in and did that and provided that service to our local community to help them with that bill that was passed. Last fall, I spent a day and a half going through safety measures with the Southeast Valley School District, K through 12, doing a presentation for all of them and educating them on the world that we live in and the dangers that are there. Those are the type of programs that I will continue to do because I believe in that, and being prepared and being proactive is important. The mentoring program that the police department started is a great thing, and they've had a program for several years. This one just recently with Mr. Quinnell McCaleb came out just a couple weeks ago, as Sergeant Walter said. If we have employees and deputies within our department that feel the need to be involved with that, I'll encourage them all day. If that's something that they want to be involved with, that's great. We have 2 DARE officers in our department. They need support from the leader that DARE's okay and DARE's great, and we need that interaction with kids. So those are all community programs that are out there now that we can still continue to be involved with moving forward in the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you very much. We've got time left for one more question and closing comments. So, pardon? Make it a good one. Yes, sir. Well, I'm trying to sift to see. There's several here that I haven't been able to ask yet, but I think we'll have them posted on the website where these guys can answer at a later time. The sheriff wears many hats. As deputy, you have both only worn some of the hats. What do you feel will challenge you the most, and how are you going to prepare for and face that challenge? And then also, there's another question related to communication. How do you, as part of that, feel you can improve communication within the department and the community? So I hope that you understand the question. So, no, I think Tony is. Or Tony, yeah, Luke, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I lost my thought.
What was it again? I'm kidding. I'm not going to make you read all that again.
Sure.
So yeah, I've worn a lot of hats. I've been involved in a lot of things in 30 years, as you would expect in this field. The things I lean on the most is being a sergeant for the last 11 years. Our department needs opportunities for advancement. That's things that we can make better. Opportunity to move up. That's a goal for everybody in law enforcement, that someday they want to be promoted. I think that's a great thing that we can do. I acted as the chief deputy when there was an opening there because our chief deputy was in medical issues, and learned that side of it. I already talked about me being a proactive officer as it is for the last 25 plus years within our sheriff's department, and 12 as an investigator. I can't just shut that off. So as an administrator, I'm going to be there to help our deputies when they need help with cases, day or night, whatever that may be. We have a lot of good people on staff, and we need to continue the work that we're doing to help our community stay safe, and that starts with us working together as a team. The communication aspects. Yes, we need to get together. We need to all be on the same page. We need to have staff meetings, not only with the deputies, but with our jail staff, so that we can all see each other and talk about things that are going on, and it doesn't feel like one shift's isolated away or somebody doesn't fit in. Those are the things that we can make our department better. And at the end of the day, what that does is provide better service to all of you and a better work environment for the people that we have employed at the sheriff's office. And that's our goal. And that should be the goal of the leader of a department, to make that a work-friendly environment.
All right, thank you very much. Now it's time for closing comments, and we're going to start with, oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get this done, I guess. Sorry. Here, you can use my mic.
They shut me off. All right. Don't start the clock yet. I had to switch mics. All right. The biggest challenge for a sheriff, currently as a sergeant, I wear that hat of a sergeant, and I am personally responsible for the deputies that are on my shift, that they make it home safe, that they have everything they need to properly serve the citizens of our county. As the sheriff, I become personally responsible for all of the deputies, all of the jailers, all of our office staff, and all of the citizens of Webster County. If something bad happens, if one of them gets hurt, that's going to be hard not to take personal, because it happened on my watch. And that is why, as your sheriff, I will strive and ensure that the deputies, the jailers, the office staff have all the necessary equipment they need to properly and safely perform their duties, and that they are completely trained with the best training available to ensure that they can do their jobs in that way.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, I need that one back. Sorry about this, you guys. Now we'll have closing comments, and they'll have up to 2 minutes, and then I'm sure they'll mingle around here afterwards, and we appreciate you all for coming. So we'll go ahead and start.
I think maybe the battery's dead. First off, I want to thank the Growth Alliance for putting on this forum tonight. I want to thank all of you in attendance here. It's a packed house for those of you online, and it's great to see so many faces out here that are interested in this. I want to thank all the viewers online that couldn't be here today. And I want to thank Sergeant Fleener for participating, and like he said, we came up here and we did it right. We didn't act like the president candidates, right? As I said in my opening, I am committed to being a proactive leader for the sheriff's office, and I have proven that commitment because I have already started reaching out so that I can start moving the department forward as soon as I take office. I have proven that commitment because I am reaching out to the citizens, and I am listening to them about their concerns and what they want and expect from the sheriff's office. The citizens deserve a sheriff that will listen to them, be available to them, work with them, and serve them. A vote for me will guarantee that sheriff. As you prepare to cast your vote, I would ask each candidate, I would ask each voter, whether you vote mail-in ballot, walk-in absentee starting today, or whether you go to the polls on November 3rd, look closely at each candidate. Look beyond just the time that they've served for the sheriff's office. Look at the issues that they want to change and improve. Look at the candidate that can see the potential for law enforcement, and look at the candidate that is willing to move the sheriff's office to that potential in the future. And when you look at that candidate, cast your vote for me, Tony Walter, because I am that candidate.
Thank you very much. Luke?
Thank you. I would echo the same sentiments on the thank you to the Growth Alliance and all of you for coming out and giving up your valuable time to be here and to listen to us. And my message is this: if you're undecided on who the best candidate is to be the next sheriff of this county, I ask that you take it to heart as you are the next hiring committee to appoint the next sheriff. And by that I mean, do your homework, ask some questions. So reach out to local law enforcement officers, get their opinion on who they believe the next person should be to lead this sheriff's office into the future. Reach out to the judiciary branch, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, clerical staff, people that work in the courtroom settings. See what their thoughts are on who they believe is most qualified to lead our department into the future. Courthouse employees that work for the county, they have a good idea of both of us. Ask their opinions on those. Our jail staff, those are the type of people, small town officers that have interaction with our deputies. Those are the people that can guide you in making a clear decision on who has the experience and who has the leadership ability to lead our department into the future. I am confident that when you do that, that you'll make the right decision. And it's an important decision because of this. In January, when I'm sworn in as the next sheriff of Webster County, the oath that I take says to serve and protect all citizens of Webster County. It doesn't say all Republicans, and it doesn't say all Democrats, it says all citizens. And I am the proactive leader that can do that and lead our department into the future for the next 4 years. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Sign that? Yeah.
Thanks, you guys. Hope I didn't do Okay, we're ready to go. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Kirsten. I'm going to moderate the House debate here tonight on behalf of the Fort Dodge Growth Alliance. We've got a few announcements and directions here. First of all, we ask that you continue to wear a mask. Please be mindful of social distancing. This forum is also being streamlined to Facebook and YouTube. If you are watching remotely, please text your questions to 515-207-2486. Please text questions to 515-207-2486. And the sifting table will get that and write them down on a card and bring them up to me. For those of you in the audience, again, we'll go ahead and have you write a question down on the card and give it to the sifters. If you raise your hand, someone will come by and pick it up. We will try to cover as many topics as time allows. This means that we may or may not even get to every question, but I think we'll try to post those unanswered ones with answers at a later time on the Growth Alliance website. As always, we ask that everyone, both in attendance and watching from home, remain respectful during the forum. And I really appreciate the last forum. It went very, very well. So with that, we're going to have opening comments for each candidate, 2 minutes. Then the questions will have 2-minute answers for each candidate. And then the closing will have 2 minutes for each candidate. We flipped a coin, and Charles is going to go first, and then Ann will close at the end of the debate. So Charles Clayton, welcome, and look forward to your comments.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Charles Clayton. First of all, I want to thank the Growth Alliance for having this forum for us and letting everybody get educated on the candidates. I also thank everybody in attendance and everybody at home. I'm born and raised right here in Fort Dodge. Graduated from Fort Dodge Senior High. Was on the '88 championship team. Got my degree from Iowa Central, criminal justice, and then got my 4-year degree from Buena Vista on the Iowa Central campus. My 3 boys went through this community. I raised them here. They graduated from the school system. I'm somebody that loves Fort Dodge. I've had opportunities to go work other places. Born here, raised here, want to fight the good fight here. I've always tried to step up into spaces when needed in our community, whether that was Frontier Days, whether that was Community Christmas, whether that's a bed program, whether that's a call from the chief of police at 10 o'clock at night during a Black Lives Matter protest because he thinks maybe that my presence there would help. I'm a passionate person. I can be a loud person, but I'm going to fight for what I think is right. I'm going to do what I think is right. I'm going to reach across whatever lines and boundaries I have to do that. And sometimes that means I'll make a lot of friends. Sometimes that means I'll make some enemies. But I'm going to do what's right, bottom line. And I'm going to fight for elderly in our community. I'm going to fight for kids. I'm going to fight for families. I'm going to fight for our education system, and not just our kids, but also all the workers there, the teachers, the secretaries, fight for unions. I'm going to do my best to just take my passion and sometimes my loud mouth down to Des Moines and make sure they don't forget about Fort Dodge, and that everything in Iowa has to be centered around what they think is the center of the universe down there. Remember that we've got some lives here and some people here that count too. Thank you.
Thanks to the Growth Alliance for hosting tonight. Thanks for Fort Frenzy for having us here. And thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. This is a great crowd. And thanks for everyone for watching at home. I've been serving in the Iowa House since 2019. It's my 2nd year. I'm just finishing up my 1st term. I first started thinking about running for the Iowa House back in early of 2017. My background is healthcare. I've been a nurse for 33 years. I've taught nursing at the bedside. I'm a nurse. My husband's a physician. My son's going into med school. We're a healthcare family. I thought back then we had some issues in the state facing healthcare, and I thought I could use my background and expertise to help address those issues, like cost and access to healthcare. I wanted to affect health policy in our state. After I decided to run, in the spring of 2017, I started knocking on doors and talking to voters. What I found out was the people in Webster County, both young and old, had real concerns about our healthcare system, and especially about our mental health care system. And that was something I hadn't heard before and I hadn't even thought of before. When someone will stand at their door for a half an hour and tell you about their experiences, and in some cases their tragedies, it's a big issue to them. When I was named Vice Chair of Human Resources Committee, the committee that writes health policy for the state, I made health care access a priority, and that includes mental health. In 2019, we passed historic legislation that established a mental health system for kids. This year, we passed several pieces of legislation to improve access. I'm proud of the progress we've made over the past 2 years, and I'm running for re-election to continue that work.
Thank you very much. The first question, we'll start with, I think, Ann, since she just she came up second. The first question is related to small business, and it says small businesses continue to struggle in our community, and the last round of payroll protection plan loans only helped 20% of Iowa small businesses. How can we make sure more people get the assistance they need right now here in Iowa? Is there anything the state of Iowa can do to help as these businesses recover so they can stay open long term?
I believe there's more CARES Act money coming in to fund the payroll protection program. One thing in Iowa that we can do is make Iowa a better business climate for small businesses. Right now, Iowa is 49th in the country for business friendliness. We have a high business tax, and bringing those taxes down will help small businesses.
Thank you. Charles?
As I took a couple days just to walk down Central and talk to some of our small businesses, it became very clear to me that Iowa needs to do better. And I want to be somebody to fight for better so that we don't have businesses that are worried about closing, or some that are closed and don't know how they're going to open back up. That the loans that were given out kind of pitted small businesses against each other to compete for a few dollars. They didn't think that was fair. Some thought the application itself was just overwhelming and didn't apply. Others said, hey, Charles, I have a small business. I don't have any employees, so I couldn't get any money. What about keeping their lights on, keeping their bills paid so they can keep going? So I think we just have to do better, and I want to go fight for small businesses. I want to find a way to make sure that we are working better with our SBA, our Small Business Association. I want to make sure that we find a way to reward entrepreneurship so we can keep and retain our young talent here. And they know Fort Dodge is going to take care of them. They know Iowa is going to take care of them during COVID and after.
Thank you very much. Ann? I guess you answered that. Thank you. Next question is about the state matrix for hog confinements. It says the state matrix system is being challenged by many, including the Webster County supervisors and some legislators. How would you like to see this issue approached locally and at the state level? Charles?
The matrix system itself, I just recently got introduced to some of that, so how that all works, I'll need to do more education on that. I'll have to find where my ground or space lies in that. My biggest thing is that making sure that we're faring people in those plants good wages. We haven't had a wage increase in Iowa since Culver was in office. And again, if we're going to have people working in those plants, let's make sure they have good medical insurance. Let's make sure we have a workman's comp law that makes sense in those kind of jobs. And let's make sure that they can still take care of their families when they go home. I want everybody to be able to live a quality of life that they deserve in our county. And those are the things I'll continue to fight for and voice for, and make sure that on things that I'm not 100% educated on, Jim, that I do educate myself on those matters.
Thank you very much.
We've had some issues here in Webster County, most recently a year ago, I believe December, with Iowa Select Farms wanting to put a hog confinement building a little close to close to the town. People were worried about their property values dropping. The matrix has been in place for a long time. I remember we had a town meeting on that in Vincent. I addressed some of your issues, and actually the mayor of Vincent was very proactive on that. I have a good relationship with Iowa Select Farms, and we were able to actually stave off that project for a little bit. The matrix has been in place and not changed. I'm always open to looking at changes in the matrix. I wouldn't want to do anything to shut down livestock production in Iowa. It is, it's essential. Iowa feeds the world. I mean, we provide 82% through animal farming, through field farming. That said, I'm not an expert on agriculture. And in our county, in our district, so Senator Kreinbrink is the senator for both myself and Mike Sexton. We have 3 different backgrounds. I'm healthcare. When there's a financial decision, I depend on Senator Kreinbrink, and when there's an agricultural issue, I depend on Mike Sexton. We're a good team. We work together, and that's the way I address that. That's the way I go about that.
Thank you very much. The next question says, if elected, would you support increasing the 810 levy and emergency levy to allow cities like Fort Dodge more flexibility?
And I've had several talks about this with Councilman Nevin Conrad. Again, this is to increase increase the fund through Fort Dodge. Fort Dodge. I have actually brought that issue down to the State House. It's tight. I mean, I don't have a lot of support for that. I do support the funds that supports. I'm always interested in looking at that. When we say the 810 levy hasn't been increased in so many years, though, what does happen is your assessments are increased, and then your property taxes go up. So we are actually receiving, the city is actually receiving more money from the taxes.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Charles, on the 810 levy and emergency levy.
From what I've read and researched, that's something that I'd be in favor of. I think that would help Fort Dodge. I think it would bring some new and different funding in for us. That's something that I would support.
Okay, thank you. This one is, I can do it to both of you. It's, what are your thoughts of introducing a bill to freeze property taxes for senior citizens over 65? Other states have such laws. Charles?
I would be in favor of it. One of the very first calls that I made when I decided to run, an elderly gentleman got on the phone and he said, Charles, we need you to run. We need you to fight for our elderly. We are under attack. We have worked our whole lives to depend on certain things from our government, and they're trying to strip all these things away from us. Anything that we can do to kind of pay homage and respect and make life easier for our elderly when they're in a situation where they don't have new funding coming in, they don't have new ways to get creative, I'd be 100% in support of it.
Thank you. Ann?
Thanks. I've had several conversations with Kim Alstead on the City Council about this, and as in the past 2 years, I've received a lot of constituent input on this. So what's happening is property taxes keep going up for the elderly, even though they have their house paid for. The property taxes have become so high that they've had to move out of their homes. I completely support this. I do think we need to care for our elderly and make sure they can stay in their home.
Thank you very much. This is another question related to working on mental health. We had similar questions in the first forum with the sheriff. How would you build better working relationships with partners in mental health, domestic violence intervention, substance abuse intervention, the county attorney's office, and the Fort Dodge supervisors and local government? So what do you think we should do to help improve the mental health and domestic violence intervention type services?
Absolutely. So this is something, like I said in my opening statement, it's a priority of mine to work on mental health and domestic abuse, substance abuse, all of that stuff leads into, it's all one part of a system. I've been working with Mark Campbell for the last 2 years on increasing services in our area. I've been working with Aaron McCone at Berry Hill. There is an issue in our county. We belong to a large region. Working with Mark, I introduced legislation this year that Webster County was able to leave this region, either form a new region or join a new region. But the main thing about that is they were able to keep their reserve funds, which are your tax dollars. That was an issue with our mental health regions, county social services. They wanted to keep the money if anyone left the region. I'm really proud of the collaborative work that I've done with the county supervisors on that, and I'm proud to say that legislation went through both chambers and was signed by the governor.
Thank you.
Mental health and domestic violence issues are something that are dear to me. When it comes to domestic violence, I actually worked on a federal grant that came through Iowa in the mid-2000s with DSOC, when we still had George Dehaan there, and looked at ways that we can improve domestic violence, care for the victims, and safety for the victims. Funding has been gutted out of that, and I think that we need to find a way to put more funding into that. Mental health, we all know that the funding there has also been gutted. The changes in Medicaid and privatization hasn't helped that at all, and our providers and recruiting providers to the area and keeping providers in Iowa. There's a mental health forum about a week ago that I went to, and it seemed like a lot of our first responders are frustrated that things aren't going. A lot of our officers, our law enforcement, are spending a lot of time with the same people week after week, day after day when it comes to these issues. A lot of their time is being bogged down then with transporting them to emergency rooms or whatever it may be. And so I just gave Roger Porter a call, our chief of police, and I said, hey, once selection thing's all over, they got to be way, way busy. Why don't we talk about a way that maybe the city and the county, when I win, maybe the state can find a way to work together. Why don't we leverage a home here in town? Why don't we get that to a nonprofit? Why don't we get some volunteers trained so the police can at least take those that are safe enough and non-combatant enough there to free up some of our officers' time. And then they can go in and do what they need, and those volunteers in that home then can decide, do we take them to emergency room or do we keep them there for the night? I just think there's some creative ways to do this where not just city, county, or state has to take on the whole financial budget. But if we don't put more money in this, we're just playing a shell game, plain and simple.
Thank you very much. Basically, people want to know, what do you both feel about the governor's response in leading our state effort to combat COVID-19, and what do you think the legislature could do next session to help improve the situation in Iowa? So it's COVID and the governor, and what can the legislature do to help?
I think that we need a common sense approach to this and some consistency. I don't think we've had a common sense approach. I don't think we've had great consistency with this. I don't think during COVID we need our legislation voting to deny people of medical service, if they could be denied for pre-existing conditions, that they could be denied of a pre-existing condition called COVID-19, that people can be evicted out of their homes. We don't need to be voting for that during this time. This is a very unsettling, unsure time. And I think we could have done a better job. I think our governor could have done a better job of just being more common sense, common ground approach to this. And I don't know how we ever politicized a pandemic. It's confusing to me. I'm just Chuck, just a regular guy, want to fight for his community, and how we politicize the whole pandemic is disgusting. But maybe Iowa can do better, and maybe we can find a way to just, again, find a common sense approach to this that works for everybody.
Thank you.
I think Governor Reynolds has done a phenomenal job over the last 7 months. In the beginning, we had no idea what we were dealing with. CDC guidance changed almost on a weekly basis. The governor had to walk a very fine line between keeping people safe and keeping the economy going. I'm going to specifically address something that my opponent mentioned. Number one, federal law states that no one can be denied for pre-existing conditions, and I support that. I believe what my opponent's referring to is a second-degree amendment, which is cleverly titled the Protection Covered for Pre-Existing Conditions Act. And it did provide coverage for pre-existing condition. It also is full of other stuff that was not related to COVID. It was not related to protecting Iowans. It included requiring Iowa to become a member of the United States Climate Agreement in that same bill. This is a partisan game that's played by Democrat leadership in the House, so they can say Republicans voted against pre-existing conditions, and that's just not true. In fact, I co-sponsored a House resolution that specifically protected Iowans' coverage for pre-existing conditions instead of funding pet projects. I am on record supporting coverage for pre-existing conditions. I don't like to play these partisan games. And talking to voters, they don't like it either.
Thank you. The next question is related to gun violence and the Second Amendment. The question says, gun violence has increased in our community over the last few years. What can you do as a state rep to help address that issue? And where do you stand on the Second Amendment?
And I'm first, right? I completely support the Second Amendment. I completely support gun ownership for people who are legally able to own a gun. You know, there is an out-of-state group coming from New York that it's a Bloomberg group. They're pumping in $1 million to Iowa to support Democrat candidates to take away your Second Amendment rights. You all, some of you got the mailer this weekend that's funded by a New York group. You know, there are a few common sense things we can do to keep guns out of the hands of criminals, but I will tell you, criminals don't observe gun laws. Look at Chicago. They have the strictest gun laws and the most gun violence. I am for your right to bear arms, and I'm not for New York New York groups coming in and trying to take away your Second Amendment rights.
Thank you. Charles?
I don't want to take anybody's guns away. I think everybody that's legally can own a gun should. I also think that in our community, just this year, we had 4 people die of gun violence. We had 2 African Americans killed at about 3 o'clock in the morning because of gun violence. We had a domestic violence situation where a woman was killed because of gun violence. And recently we had an 18-year-old female that was killed in a drive-by. We have to do better to keep guns out of those people's hands. We've got to make our community safer. I don't want to take anybody's gun that's going to legally own a gun. But we have to find a common sense way to come together and find a way to protect our communities better and keep guns out of the hands of people that are killing people right here in our community.
Thank you very much. This is a short question. I think you can answer pretty quickly. What are your feelings on tax credits? What are your feelings on tax credits? Charles?
I'm not against tax credits. I would like to see them used maybe a little bit differently. I would like to make sure that our small businesses also are included when we talk about that. I'd like to see farmers also, so we can protect our farmers, our agriculture. So I'm not against tax credits, but sometimes I think, are we cutting the rest of our community, the rest of our state short by just giving tax credits to any and every corporation that comes in and asks for them? Does everybody really deserve those tax credits? So again, it's a common sense and hopefully common ground approach to read across the aisles and find a way to take care of big businesses so we can get jobs here. Take care of small businesses so we can keep them here. Take care of farmers. But let's not give away all our tax credits so then we can't budget and we can't fund schools the way we need to.
Thank you. Ann?
Is that short enough?
That's good.
I think every tax credit needs to be evaluated for the value it gives to our community and our state. Tax credits have provided a lot of high-quality jobs in Webster County. For instance, CJ Bio, I'll just take one company, they use the research activity tax credit, the investment tax credit, and the sales and use tax refund credit. CJ spent, after they received those, they spent $380 million Webster County money, their own money in Webster County on just construction and machinery alone. They also provide 230 high-quality jobs, manufacturing jobs, and that are good pay and benefits. In addition to that, all of the companies use, at the ag park, they all use locally grown corn, which increases the price of corn for our farmers. Another benefit of the R&D tax credit, if something is researched here in Fort Dodge, most likely they're going to develop that program, that product in Fort Dodge. They're going to manufacture it here. That's going to mean more jobs. You know, I've spoken to Mayor Bemrick, and he'll tell you that without the workforce housing tax credit, we wouldn't have the new housing developments in town, like Williams Bend and the Gypsum Creek. Availability of housing is vital when Dennis Plautz and Kelly Halstead are trying to attract businesses to our area, again, to bring more jobs, more quality jobs here. We have great leadership in Webster County, and they've used those tax credits properly and to the maximum benefit of our community.
Thank you very much. We had this question in the first forum. I'd like to, I guess someone wants to be asked it again. It says, I'm tired of the negativity in the campaigns at the state and national level. Tell me one quality you appreciate about your opponent. One quality you appreciate about your opponent.
I appreciate a lot of qualities about Charles, but I'm going to talk about a specific situation that I experienced with him. Gosh, it had to be back in 2005, 2006, 2007, I can't remember when. But our ladies group, our PEO, was going to meet him one afternoon about noon, and he was a little bit late. And he said, you know, I'm really sorry I'm late, but I was at the high school. I had one of my kids. I had to meet with one of my kids there and the counselor and his parents because he had to tell that parent that his girlfriend was pregnant. And it was, you know, if you can imagine the support that he gave that child. I appreciate all the support he gives the kids in Fort Dodge. Without a doubt, he's a good person. Thank
you very much. Charles?
Well, and I'm glad that that question is asked because, again, if you get into sometimes your party affiliations, people can think people hate each other. But Ann and her husband both have given to APHIS, I want to say, several times over the last few years. I know she's been on a few women's group that have also voted to give APHIS money. So that shows she's got a good heart. That shows her husband's got a good heart. They're willing to support nonprofits in the area, and in particular the nonprofit that I run, so we can help kids and families. So it's important sometimes, again, to just keep that Iowa nice and make sure that we understand that even if we don't agree, we're all in the same fight.
Thank you very much. Very good answers. The next one is related to, we had questions in the first forum, and now we've had two handed to me tonight on this issue. What's your general feeling about defunding the police? Charles, I think you start.
I hate the thought. I hate the word. Defunding right away makes it a controversial back and forth conversation. With our police currently being scrutinized the way they are, taking funding away isn't going to help. I think both of the sheriffs that we had up here before and Chief Porter, when I've talked to him, have talked about training is so important, and how are we going to get more training for officers if we start taking money out of that area? And I know, again, that means maybe taking funding here and putting it elsewhere. But I think sometimes having good just community conversations and good community partnerships while leaving that funding there can take care of those things. Like Sergeant Flainer said, my whole staff at APHIS and my whole board, we're going to get trained in the same way they train their officers in the simulation training to know that split-second decision that it takes for them to make those decisions in active shooter situations. Because I want people to understand that not every situation with law enforcement needs to be painted into a picture of racism. They're under a lot of stress, and they have a lot of things going on. And the same thing in that, I've worked with Roger Porter, our chief, our mayor, our city manager, our sheriff's department, our residential correctional facility, the state of Iowa Department of Corrections, all coming to Fort Dodge the week of October 19th to do a summit to bring us closer together and kind of what's next. What's next is we're going to start these conversations, we're going to start these training on leadership and diversity, and we're going to build equity in this community. We're going to build enough equity in our community that if something does ever happen here, our community knows that we can survive it. They'll know we put in enough love and enough caring that it wasn't racist, it was just, like they say, a bad seed. Again, I hate the term, and I'm not for it.
Thank you very much. This one isn't related, I think it's to the mental health. Oh, you haven't, I'm sorry.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Short answer, I'm totally against defunding the police.
Thank you, I'm sorry about that. Got excited about the next question. Are you in favor of Webster County remaining in their current region of county social services? And I think that might relate to the mental health area too. But
Yeah, well, that actually is the mental health area. County Social Services is our mental health and disability services region that we belong to. Right now, we have 19 counties in that. It stretches from Pocahontas County to the Mississippi River. It's far too large. The main leadership in County Social Services is in the Waterloo area. I do feel that, and it's borne out by the numbers. Webster County does not get the funding or the development from County Social Services. Again, I, along with Mark Campbell, worked hard on this. I had the legislation introduced. It finally passed on the budget bill and signed by the governor. I am all for Webster County leaving this region, either to form their own or to join another region where we can have more of the focus in Webster County.
thank you, Charles.
I'm in favor of it. From everybody I've talked to, it's a step in the right direction.
Thank you very much. Another question related to kind of general criminal justice reform. Juvenile lifers currently are eligible for sentence review. Would you support sentence review for all lifers after 25 years of confinement?
Yes, I would. You're looking at someone who has a felony. You're looking at someone that hasn't always been perfect and made mistakes. Sometimes people need a second chance. Sometimes lifers have made a mistake, and depending on what the crime is, I'm not going to say maybe every crime deserves that 25 years, but maybe at some point we need to at least review that. And I trust our parole board, who Helen Miller is now in charge of, to make a sound decision and to do what's right, not only for our county but for Iowa, to review those things and give people that maybe deserve it a second chance.
Thank you. Ann.
We have a lifers program here at Fort Dodge at the prison, and I've worked several times with Terry Minke and talked about this issue. So we work at the prison packing the backpacks for Backpack Buddies, the food program that goes home with the kids for the weekend when they need supplements. I've worked with those guys. They've told me what their crimes are. They don't have a chance for parole at this point, and these are kids that have made, or they're my age now, or yeah, younger than me, whatever. But these are kids, these are people that have made bad choices and decisions when they're 18 years old. Their brains are not fully formed at that time. And I talk to these guys. They are just like you and me. They could be out of prison. They could be contributing to the society instead of we're paying $33,000 a year to keep someone in prison. They could be out making money and paying taxes. I still believe in victims' rights, though. Representative Baxter from just east of us, we are actually working on a bill to do a review of that. So there are going to be several people, several interested parties, including families of victims. So I definitely want to work on that and give people the second chance that I think they deserve.
Thank you very much. Here's a question for both of you. It was addressed to Charles, but I think you both can answer this. Speaking through the perspective of your youth work and your involvement with youth in the past, what are your top 3 things the Iowa legislature could do to support children and their families? So Ann, we'll start with you.
Support children and their families. Well, number one, making sure our educational and community programs are strong. Number 2, if we do have a problem with at-risk youth, I think that we should make sure that they can get the intervention that they need at an early age. We know that if problems are addressed at an early age, we can hopefully prevent some problems on the backside when they're adults. That's 2. I'll just talk about one thing I have done for kids in the legislature, and that was pass legislation, which was also signed by the governor. If those kids need services and their parents either can't get off work to take them, or they're, unfortunately we do have some disinterested parents, they'll be able to access some of the mental health services they need at school. I'm really proud of that legislation.
Thank you. Charles?
Education, K through 12 funding that we needed at, community college funding and support, mental health resources and telehealth, and then I'd say the trade entrepreneurs program. Those would be the things I would fight for our youth.
Thank you. This is a short, to-the-point question. How do you feel about negative campaign ads?
I don't think either one, I'll speak for myself. I don't like negative campaign ads. I think what people need to understand is sometimes it's not the candidate. There's so many other groups that want to get their 2 cents in that are running negative campaign ads. I don't want to run a negative ad. Like I said, I think Ann and her husband both are great people, so I would have no reason to run a negative ad. But you get outside parties and outside people and outside interests sometimes that may want to do that, whether we say they can or maybe we like it or not. Politics have grown to something ugly like that, and hopefully, maybe Iowa, maybe Fort Dodge can start showing that we can go the other direction.
Thank you.
I think, for my first campaign, it was completely positive. I am here to promote what I'm going to do for you and what I have done for you. I don't look to tear anyone else down. I'm completely against negative ads, and everyone I talk to, every voter I've talked to, no one likes them.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is one final question, and then we'll have our closing comments. This is a general thought. I want your thoughts on the role of school vouchers. Do you support them or not? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why not? So, Ann?
Yep. I think that the past few months or the past 7 months have shown us the differences in schools. I'm thinking of one gal in particular who could not afford to send her child to private school, and she knew her child was going down the wrong path, and she felt like she needed to get him out of that environment, and he would really do better in a smaller environment. So I do approve of some school vouchers in some instances.
Thank you. Charles, school vouchers.
I would have to say I agree in some instances, because I think school vouchers is a slippery slope. It can be a real quick way to stop funding our public schools. It can be a quick way to take funding out of those schools and divert them other places. So it's a slippery slope. It's a thing that I struggle with because I think that our public schools need to be funded first. I think they need to be our top priority first. And vouchers, again, some situations maybe they'd be okay, but opening up that Pandora's box too much, I'm very leery of that.
Thank you very much. Okay, Charles, I think you get to make the opening, or the first closing comment, and then Ann. That's right. So,
Okay. Thanks for all your thoughtful questions tonight. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming out tonight. To everyone in House District 9, I have been your representative for the past 2 years. I'm here to serve you. I'm not here for myself. I'm not here for my party. When legislation has come up that you haven't liked, you've reached out to me, and I've taken your voice to Des Moines. I told you before I was elected, I would work across party lines. I've reached out to Democrats to co-sponsor legislation with me because it was good policy, and I wanted to make sure everyone was on board. And I also wanted to see what problems they thought we might have with it. I persuaded our leadership to run bills on the House floor when we didn't have enough votes in our caucus to pass it because I knew I had Democrat support. I have, and I'll continue to work across the aisles because we don't need the dysfunction here in Iowa that we see in our federal government. If you've reached out to me since I've been in office, you know that I respond almost immediately, and I've done everything I can to help you work through your problems. That's my job, and it's one of the things I enjoy most about being your representative, is helping you. Since I've been in the legislature, I've run bills in the House that address the treatment for substance abuse, capped the cost of insulin, allowed mental health services in the schools, increased child care provider rates for those providing child care for CCA, addressed the child care cliff. I'm proud of what we've accomplished in the last 2 years, and I'm asking that you cast your vote for me again so we can continue to continue the progress that we've made. Thank you very much.
thank you. Charles?
Again, I want to say thank you to Growth Alliance for holding this, everybody that's here in person or online. I hope I answered some questions tonight and showed people that I'm a fighter, that I'm passionate, that I want to fight for everybody and every voice in Fort Dodge. The struggles Fort Dodge has had, I think I've been in those struggles. The tears they've shed, I think I've shed those tears. The anger they've had, I think I've had the same anger. I want to be the kind of leader that the chief of police can call, the mayor can call, the grandma can call, the high school kid can call, the teacher can call. I want to fight for everybody. I want to make sure that every voice is heard. I want to make sure that we are a community that doesn't leave anybody left out, that we're not trying to make sure or inadvertently only take care of a certain segment of the community. I'm here to fight for Fort Dodge. I want you to vote Clayton, and I want you to have the trust that once you do vote Clayton, I'll do everything in my power to make sure Fort Dodge is represented in the best way, and people in Des Moines know that we have families and voices here that they're going to listen to.
Thank you very much. And I have one announcement. Someone from the audience online asked, where do we do our early voting? And it's at the DHS building right across on First Avenue North from Doyle, the water company down there. So early voting is at the DHS building. They aren't in the courthouse because of the construction. And I want to thank Kim Otto for helping me with that. So with that, we'll have close the debate, and I think these candidates will stick around and visit. So thank you all very much.